The Bengals going to sign any more veterans this offseason? I don't know. Let's take a look. Let's go. What is up, Bengals fam? It's your boy Mike coming back at you with another Who Daily. You got me on a Tuesday. I've been kind of sporadic, I know, this offseason. Once the draft happens, guys, news comes and goes in spurts. I know the show's called Who Daily, which makes you think that I'm going to do a daily episode, and I want to. Not always enough to talk about. Plus, it takes a little time. I'm the only person doing this, right? So I'm sitting here in my camper at my workstation. I gotta record, film, find the subject matter, edit the video, do all this stuff. It's a lot of work, but I do it for you guys. I do it for the team. I do it for Who Day Nation. I wanted to take a look today at as the Bengals OTAs are getting started. You saw today, I think, some little bit of news trickling out about Joe Burrow throwing some passes with a backwards hat. He's a backwards hat guy. We already knew that. Colin Cowherd can go suck it. He's throwing some back shoulder fades to Jamar Chase, throwing some out routes to Tyler Boyd. Looking good. Stuff you expect. Some stuff that's not the greatest. I mean, you saw Alex Kappa has what Zach Taylor calls a core muscle injury. I think he's probably I think he's fine. I think if it were more than that, we would know. But Alex Kappa should be good. But also taking a look at Jackson Carman today, competing for that left guard spot, competing really for a starter spot, right? And I think he knows it. He says we're officially in best shape of my life season. You're gonna start seeing embattled players and players who didn't have the greatest year last year saying stuff like, I'm in the best shape of my life from now until the start of the season. That's fine. I hope Jackson Carman is. I hope he's good enough in terms of corner to beat out all the competition for that spot. But if he's not, should the Bengals be looking at signing some depth at the offensive line? There are some free agents still out there. Let's take a look at what PFF has to say about the remaining free agent class. Just taking a look here, see should the Bengals even waste their time on some of these guys? I know that it's never a waste of time to get depth, but you don't want to be careful with veteran free agent signings late in the process, because that could also throw off some team chemistry, and it's a crapshoot. But if you find the right guys, signings late in the offseason can put you over the edge, especially if you deal with injuries, and they're going to deal with injuries because everybody deals with injuries. I would be surprised if at least I would be super surprised if the Bengals made it through the offseason without at least one offensive lineman getting injured, and without at least one, probably multiple defensive backs getting injured. So, you can, and what do we always say on the channel? You can never have too many pass rushers. Speaking of pass rushers, Jadeveon Clowney's on here, but I think I read the Browns have already extended him an offer. And I think he's going to be back with the Browns. That's okay. I'm not interested necessarily. I think what they do need is wide receiver depth, because they got when you hear people talk about the Bengals got lucky last year in a lot of ways, one of the things they point to is injury luck. Now, okay, they didn't have any stars go down, right? And I think that's what people are saying. Their main offensive weapons all stayed healthy. And I don't think you can bank on that happening 2 years in a row. I think that's pretty difficult. I would love to see it. We would all love to see it, but it'd be difficult for that to maintain that trajectory. Now, who should they take a look at? I mean, let's look at these wide receivers. So the veterans left. Odell Beckham ain't happening. Antonio Brown, no thank you. 34 years old. I think he's probably going to play with Tampa Bay again. Jarvis Landry, no. Will Fuller, yes. I do think, and the reason I say yes is just because I think that what the Bengals really need is a guy who can, if they need to. They don't have one wide receiver on their roster that can stretch the field vertically, and that's Jamar Chase. If something happens to Jamar, or if he needs even if he just goes down for a quarter or needs a break or gets suspended, I don't know, you never know what could happen in the NFL season. Having a guy that can step in and stretch the field vertically like Will Fuller can would be a big deal. Having this guy as your wide receiver 4 to also potentially return some kicks or do some other things for you. Will Fuller, I think, if at the right price, at 1 year, if you can sign him on a 1 year deal for $7 million, yeah, but I'm all in on that. Go do that, because right now their wide receiver 4 is a battle between a bunch of dudes that you've probably fringe heard of, special team type guys and undrafted free agents, right? Not a greatest position for your wide receiver 4 spot to be in. The Bengals have maybe the best wide receiving core in the league, 1 through 3, right? But that's assuming they all stay healthy. What happens if T. Higgins goes down or Tyler Boyd, tweaks something? You'd love to have a backup plan, right? If Tyler Boyd gets hurt, by the way, I would actually prefer. I really hope that they give Chris Evans a try in the slot. I think he has the potential to be one of the better slot receivers in the league. I'm not sure how smart he is as far as like knowing the complexities of the route trees and the different play calls of running routes that you need. Also, a lot of the Bengals like to run option routes out of the slot, and those it takes a really seasoned wide receiver like Tyler Boyd to be able to run an option route and understand the coverage he's looking at, and then run the correct route depending on the coverage he's seeing. And you have to be on the same page with the quarterback on that as well. So it's a pretty important situation there. If Tyler Boyd goes down, they're going to have to scramble to find somebody to play in the slot. But Will Fuller at $7 million for a year of service, sign me up, bring me in here. He was looking at the beginning of his career like a really, really good deep threat wide receiver. He's had some injury issues and fallen off a little bit, but you could grab him. Looking at the other wide receivers, he's really the only one I would be interested in, to be honest with you. So if you now take a look at maybe, let's scroll through the offensive linemen that are available, because you always can use depth. Like I said at the beginning, I don't think there's any way they make it through the season with all 5 offensive linemen playing all 17 games of all 17 games of the regular season, right? I just don't think that is reasonable. Whether it's injury or just they aren't performing well or whatever it is, I think you need a guy that you're comfortable. I do think they are comfortable with their backups at this point. I really do. With Trey Hill, with Akeem Adeniji, with Jackson Carman, that mix of guys, Cordell Volson, I think they're comfortable with like that group of 4 players battling it out for that starting spot. And then whoever it is, somebody gets hurt, the other guy steps in. There's probably not a huge drop off from whoever gets the job to the next best guy, right? I think that's their calculus here, and that's good. That's good calculus. That's the way you want to build teams and rosters, right? You want to say, yeah, these are the best guys we can put out there, but if we need to next man up this thing, the next guy up doesn't really drop us off a cliff or anything like that. And the only position that the Bengals have on their roster right now, there are 2 that are worrisome if they get hurt. Joe Burrow, the roster drops off a cliff after Joe Burrow at quarterback. Trey Hendrickson. When Trey Hendrickson wasn't on the field last year, it was obvious they could not generate a pass rush without him on the field. Really important they're able to keep Trey Hendrickson fresh, healthy, and ready to go at the end of the season. And the return of Joseph Osai is going to be a big one there, right? Getting Osai reps off the edge. They also drafted a couple of pass rushers in Zach Carter and Jeffrey Gunter. I think we may see them draft, or sign another guy. But let's take a look at the tackles here, or at the offensive lineman. Dwayne Brown's 37. That ain't happening. They also don't need a starter, and he would probably only sign if he was going to be a starter anyway. Take a look here. Eric Fisher, again, looking for probably 3+ years. I don't think the Bengals are going to, that doesn't seem like their vibe right now. They're looking for a veteran, a lot like could be a Darrell Williams, but Darrell Williams would be a starter, I would say, or looking to be a starter. But there's a guy on here that there are 2 guys on here we all really know, and Riley Reif's one of them. I think Riley Reif's going to retire, just to be honest with you. I don't think that the Bengals are interested in bringing him back, and I don't think he's interested in playing anymore. So, but if you take a look at right here, our boy Quentin Spain, he's the worst, according to PFF, he is the worst available veteran free agent right now. Looking for 3 years, 4.75 on average. You know what? If I was the Bengals, I would do this, and the reason is because he's gonna play, because you rarely keep your offensive line healthy throughout the entire year. You always need a veteran to fill in snaps. That's basically where Quentin Spain's career is right now, and I think he understands that. You sign the guy to come in, be a veteran leader in that offensive line room, and also be able to play, by the way, any position you need to. He played some tackle for them a couple years ago. He can play tackles all the way through. I don't think he played much center. I don't think he has ever played center. But any of the other positions he can play. So super valuable swing offensive lineman to be able to play all of those positions. And as we know, this coaching staff loves versatility, and that's what Quentin Spain brings to the offensive line room. Just taking a look at some of these other guys, I don't think they're going to sign any more defensive backs. I think they're happy with their young, talented, super athletic defensive backfield. They may be looking to add a potential defensive lineman, whether that's an edge or a defensive interior, and a couple guys here available. Jason Pierre-Paul, probably too old, and also fell off a cliff last year with his play, right? 45.3 PFF score, not good. Sheldon Richardson, though, looking for a 1-year, $3 million deal, like, that could be a good rotational piece, but you could replace some of those snaps that Larry Ogunjobi had a bunch of snaps for this team last year that they're going to need to replace. And right now, the only guys that are there to take those snaps are BJ Hill and Zach Carter. I don't think the Bengals should go into the season trusting that that's a viable plan. I think that they need more guys. I think they should take the same approach as they're taking to the guard spot on offense, to the defensive line spot, the defensive interior spot on defense, which is sign quality guys that can come in and compete, play the best ones, but use them to keep each other, on defensive line, you can rotate and keep each other fresh. So I think Sheldon Richardson would be interesting, although I don't think it's realistic. Linval Joseph, that would be interesting, but again, a little too expensive for what the role that they would be looking for to sign at this point. Yeah, that's kind of it, guys. I mean, Akeem Hicks would be interesting. Especially at that price, the 3 to 5 technique. The issue with Akeem Hicks is really that Akeem Hicks plays a lot like DJ Reader does, but that's not a bad thing. I just think the Bengals don't necessarily. I think that they really built their defense around having one dominant nose tackle and then a lot of rotating pieces around, right? So I'm not sure Akeem Hicks is on the table. I would definitely check out a few of these guys, right? Wide receiver depth, your number 4 wide receiver. Kind of a question mark now. Bring in a veteran to at least have on your team to compete. You guys remember when they signed Brandon LaFell? Half of the fans were like, who the hell is Brandon LaFell? He came in and when they needed a wide receiver 2, he came in and even was the wide receiver 1 for a few games, right? So you need guys that are capable of doing that. They don't have that past the number 3 spot on their wide receiving core. And if you can address it, why not? Go sign Will Fuller, Go sign Quentin Spain, and maybe one of these defensive tackles, maybe Sheldon Richardson, these kinds of guys. Really, what I think at the end of the day, guys, they have a good roster. They're looking to fill with depth. I think they did it the right way. They did it really fast. You should be proud of what this team has accomplished. Not just the players, but guys, we got to start. You got to give props to this front office, right? I know it's weird for Bengals fans to root for a good team, and I'm gonna have a video on how we should handle ourselves going forward, knowing that now we have a good team and we live rent-free in other fan bases' minds 24/7 now. But until next time, Bengals fam, I've been Mike. This has been Daily. See ya.